So FishBase, I wished I could be there in Paris, but I can't. And so, I haven't been given a time difference. I haven't seen a lot of the talks, but everyone knows what FishBase is. So instead of regurgitating that, we decided to put some quotes here. What do your colleagues say FishBase is? FishBase, this comes from Dumont et al. In 2004. FishBase is a global information system. It's very comprehensive, the most comprehensive and informational on freshwater and marine. It has key data on the biology of fishes, the popular internet site. It's the most comprehensive source of biological data on the world's fishes. It's compiled a lot of length-weight relationship parameters for thousands of species of fishes. So there are lots of different uses and definitions of FishBase, and so thinking in that way, what is the global impact of it scientifically? And we're building off of colleagues from Aristotle University of Thessaloniki's work in 2006, who did a short citation analysis of FishBase. I believe was in a conference proceedings, and just like 2 or 3 pages. So we're acknowledging that work here, and we hope to take this a couple steps further and more in depth. What is citation analysis? This is new to me as well, so this was fun to think about, but essentially it's a way of measuring the relative importance or impact. This could be of an author, an article, or publication, and this entails counting the number of times that it's been cited by other works. And you can do this in a couple different ways, but why would you want to understand the scientific impact of a piece of work? To establish that impact, how it has impacted other authors, or who else has cited it, so it's sort of disciplinary impact. To learn more about the field or topic by identifying seminal works. A lot of my graduate students, I'll have them do a literature review or citation analysis of their subject as an entry point into a discipline. To determine what impact a particular work has had within a discipline, you mentioned that. You can break these down by discipline and country. And then last, which can't be ignored, for promotional purposes, to raise more money for things like FishBase, these long-term projects. It's helpful to go to funders with, look, here's the impact of this activity that you're supporting, and we'd like for you to support it further. Doesn't it look great? So when we started thinking about the methods of citation analysis, other scientists use a number of databases to look for articles. So we took the top 3 really and looked at the pros and cons of each. And so I'm presenting here is first the Web of Science, and up top are a few pros. The deep history of peer-reviewed journals. So their archives go very far back into the past. And while it's controversial, its journal citation reports, impact factors, and H-index are the most widely used. That's might be shifting now to Google Scholar, but the Web of Science did sort of set up these metrics in a lot of ways where impact is measured. The cons can lead to low citation counts due to errors in citations provided by authors, different citation styles used by journals, leading to poor index. When thinking about Google Scholar, its pros and cons, it's newer. It covers a wide swath of sources, so a lot of non-traditional sources that aren't covered by the Web of Science or Scopus. These include not just peer-reviewed papers, but theses, books, abstracts, great literature. Its cons, however, when thinking about a site, is the limited search features really impair what you can and can't do in a large-scale citation analysis like this. There are a lot of inflated citation counts due to inclusion of these non-scholarly articles. Promotional web pages count as citations sometimes, table of contents pages, so it's a mishmash of its sort of the counting of citations. It's difficult to export them, limited to what is available on the web, so it's behind a pretty thick firewall. And then last but not least is Scopus, and this is a very user-friendly search interface, broader coverage of journals than the Web of Science, and it has a very easily downloadable reference list. The major con of Scopus, however, is its narrow time span. Really only goes back in these comprehensive, downloadable sorts of ways to 1990, but that's not a problem for us because that's luckily when FishBase started. So we chose to use Scopus, and up here, this slide is just showing up top, we grayed out the Web of Science and Google Scholar bubbles because we did not use them, but you can see the number of citations differed greatly when looking at Web of Science versus Scopus versus Google Scholar. Maybe a thing in the future is to use all three somehow, but for these preliminary results, we went with Scopus. We analyzed the citations in a number of ways, which are represented here in the bubbles, which I will do sort of signposts as to what is coming here in the results slides. And then we had a duplicate records problem, particularly with affiliation, trying to determine affiliation of the authors who have cited FishBase and funding sponsor. So first, broad overview, when again just taking Scopus, how much is FishBase cited? And this reflects Deng's group keeps numbers like this, and these are very similar to those. And as you can see, it's just been going up and up since its inception, and really, getting over 1,200 citations per year in recent years. Where are these citations coming from? The size of the bubble is the proportionality to the number of citations, and a couple of takeaways from this slide here. One is that there are a lot in Europe, you can see. And then second, looking at the table down below is the United States has almost double the number of citations of FishBase than other countries. There's a lot of people using it in the US, but it's, as I'll show in future slides, it's not one or two different people. It's dispersed around a number of different folks. Another thing to note is Brazil is the only country in the global south using FishBase heavily. So it's dominated, citations are dominated by the global north, which is no surprise to folks in the crowd. And I think Peter's last presentation actually shines a light on what I'm going to present here in this slide, and that when thinking about who is citing FishBase, if we run some correlations first to freshwater to land ratio, so countries with a lot of fresh water, are they citing FishBase? And the answer is no. It might just be because it's a dark hole, but countries with large coastlines studying perhaps more marine fisheries are citing the heck out of FishBase. So the number of countries document citing FishBase has a pretty high correlation with the length of the country's coastline. And this could be a topic of discussion for later, but I thought that was an interesting finding. You might see yourself up here in this slide, those of you in the audience and online. These are the people citing FishBase the most. And it starts sort of in the top right of this circle and goes down. And so Daniel Pauly's ranked number 4th, and you can see other members of the FishBase consortium are in the top 30 individuals who are citing FishBase in their work. And again, speaking to the fact that I just showed you that the United States publishes the most work, or few individuals from the United States in this top 30. Other consortium members that didn't make the top 30 but are still ranked quite high are shown in the left side as well. Of note is the person ranked number 1, Moravec, is a parasitologist. And we'll get into that here in a few other slides, but thinking about citations of FishBase by discipline. And then there's a little table that I forgot we put, but Australia has 4 authors in the top 30, Brazil 4, France and Greece 3, the UK 3. What disciplines are citing FishBase? You can probably guess. Some of these, fish and fisheries, sort of pop out in this word cloud that you can see. Again, of note is that parasitology piece, which I guess I was not expecting, and maybe others were, but that shows itself here again in this word cloud. Coral is also another one. Modeling, crustacea, and nematodes. All disciplines citing FishBase, and then document type. You probably would have guessed this, but the vast majority are peer-reviewed articles. However, there are some editorials, short surveys, and review articles. Citing FishBase, what affiliations are citing FishBase? What groups are these people involved with? And the point I want to make with this slide is not necessarily exactly the names up here, but that you have 3 different types of affiliations using FishBase. You have national research institutes, which may be mandated by their governments to research for management purposes or a number of things. But that research institutes are using FishBase a lot. Academic institutions are using FishBase, the second category. And then third, natural history museums. So it's being used by a number of different types of groups, indicating the sort of spread of affiliations. Why? It's the journal with the most citations to FishBase, the Journal of Applied Theology. And going on down, you can just see for yourself, maybe you're an editor of one of these journals. But I wanted to point out a couple things in this slide, and that there are 2 journals who are, affiliated with FishBase, and those are the 2 that are circled here in orange, and they're in the top 10 journals citing FishBase. So, but there are also 5 parasitology journals that are ranking quite high in citing FishBase in their studies. And then last, the special issue for this conference or symposium will be in Muséum, and that is also in the top group of citing FishBase. So I expect those numbers to jump. Maybe it can get in the top 10. 2 more slides here with results. These plots here showing citations by subject. And as you can see, the agricultural and biological sciences have the most generally defined. Environmental sciences are the second. Earth and planetary sciences. And those may be of no surprise to folks. But the subjects that are blown up, the red box shows the sort of tail end of this distribution, and we've blown that up in the bottom right corner here. And what I want to point out really is the disciplinary breadth of usage. You're seeing things like computer science, citing FishBase, neuroscience, engineering, decision sciences, chemical engineering. So again, just the point being made that FishBase is used primarily in our marine context for biology and environmental science, but it really expands itself to many other disciplines. The last result slide here is representing, we took the top 50 papers that have cited FishBase, the top sort of most popular papers that have cited FishBase, and went into each one of the cells. What's the context in which FishBase is being cited? Is it a neutral citation? We used FishBase for nomenclature, something. Is it positive or is it negative? And so out of that 50, you can see most of the papers are citing FishBase in a neutral kind of way. There are a subset, about 10 out of that 50, so about 20% that are citing it in a positive way, and then a few that are negative. And by positive, we pulled out some of the words that were used that we defined as positive, and these were comprehensive, largest compilation, popular, key data, compliments to the source. And then the negative ones were sort of criticizing FishBase in a way of giving the wrong trophic level estimates, perhaps, or imperfect nomenclature. We took those top 50 papers as well and asked ourselves, what are they doing when they're citing it? Is it for nomenclature? Is it just a simple reference, or is it a source of data, length weight data, natural mortality rate? And source of data was the highest. And these, again, are represented in this word cloud up here. And a lot of sources were using it as a source of classifying fish into habitats, using the length and weight parameters, looking at maturity, diet, names. So these are just the ways in which FishBase are being used as a source of data, modeling studies a lot of the times. And then my last comment here by context is, while FishBase is being cited a lot, it is very rarely mentioned in the abstract. So some conclusions from this preliminary work: ongoing increase in the use of FishBase in the scientific literature. Just keep rising. Scientists from around the globe are citing FishBase, but the majority come from the global north. FishBase is cited more in countries that have large coastlines. 2 journals associated with FishBase are in the top 10 of journals with papers citing the FishBase. The usage and usefulness expands beyond environmental and ecology to medicine, social, economic sciences. It's primarily cited in a neutral way, we're calling it, and used as a source of data on fish habitat, life history, and diversity. And then there seems to be possible room for improvement on trophic level estimates. I think these would be things like diet and food items, as well as valid scientific names. Take that with a grain of salt. We only used the top 50, and only a few had negative citations of it. This is the last slide. Some next steps we're thinking about: search for references in disciplines beyond fisheries that we may have missed in our broad search within Scopus. Search Google Books. Scopus does not index books very well at all, and Google does a good job of that. FishBase in the media would give us a good indication of how it's being used outside of the scientific community, but how is it being portrayed in various media outlets at all. And the last note here to everyone listening is that we're open to more ideas as well as collaborators to expand on this. Again, this is work we've done in the last 6 to 8 weeks and are sort of seeing some fun results, but are interested in other people's ideas and collaborators. And should you have any, you can contact me at the email address below there, humphries@uri.edu. That's all I have, so I guess at this time I'll stop and allow for any possible questions. Thank you.